Hey, everybody. Welcome in. I'm just going to give a minute or so for folks to trickle in. But in the meantime, drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. I'm always curious to see where everyone's based. I'm Brian, by the way, if we haven't met yet. I'm a developer relations engineer here at KiloCode, and I'm based in New York City. So I had a fun couple of days over the past, celebrating the new year and whatnot in the city. I know we've got some Kilo team members, in the chat from all over the world. So yeah, just let us know where you're at, and we'll get started in just a minute. I'm seeing hi from France, India, Malta, Ghana, Colombia. Wow, all over the world. That's awesome. Yeah, and I hope you all had a great New Year's. I had a good time. Went out with some friends and family over on Wednesday night. So I hope you all had a great New Year's as well. All right, so it looks like we got a decent amount of people in here now, so we can go ahead and get started. So today is the first official Kilo office hours session, which is an event that we're going to do, somewhat regularly from here on out, where we'll hang out, we'll talk about the latest in Kilo. I'm going to demo, the latest of the Kilo platform, and I'll go ahead and answer questions on anything you want to know, whether it's product related, ideas you have about agentic engineering, advice, really anything you all want to talk about with me today. So it's going to be somewhat casual. Feel free to start throwing questions in the chat now or as they come up, and I'll make sure to get around to as many as I can before the end of the session. So, and then in addition to answering your questions, the goal today is to show you what it looks like to go from an idea to a ship product using Kilo today, like with all the latest features and the whole loop of where you can go from, you know, just the first idea of what you want to build to a production app that anyone can access. And yeah, you can go ahead and throw questions right in the chat here. I'll scroll through and I'll try to answer them live as we go. So, you know, the workflow of agentic engineering right now, it typically looks something like prototyping, iteration, and then eventually review and deployment. Because that whole flywheel is something that we don't always talk about when we talk about AI coding tools. Everyone focuses on, can it write good code? And that matters, obviously. But what about everything else? What about the full workflow? And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to build something fun. We're going to ship it. And along the way, I'll show you some features that you might not know about yet, or I think are kind of underrated. So if that sounds good, let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So, like I said, we're going to talk about what end to end actually means, especially in terms of the Kilo platform. We're going to do a live demo, and then I'll leave some extra time for Q&A at the end, and I'll also answer questions throughout as they come. And before we dive into the demo, I want to talk for a minute about what we mean when we say that Kilo is an end-to-end platform. So when you're building something, there's this whole journey from I have an idea to people can actually use this thing in production. And in the past, that journey might have involved up to like a dozen different fragmented tools, right? You've got your IDE, you've got your terminal, you've got some kind of deployment platform, a code review tool, maybe you've got some kind of prototyping tool if you want to mock something up first. And historically, all of these things were separate and fragmented. They didn't talk to each other. Every time you switch between them, there's friction, there's context loss, right? There's mental overhead when you have to pull up the code in a brand new tool or create a new account or something like that. And that friction is actually, I think, a bigger deal than some people realize. Like, right? Like it's not just about convenience, although that obviously matters too. It's about staying in your flow every time you have to switch tools and copy something from one place to another or re-explain what you're working on to a different tool. That can be exhausting. It can be like mental overhead, like I just mentioned. And it's friction that ultimately slows you down. So when we talk about Kilo being end to end, what we're really talking about is eliminating that friction. It's about having a platform where you can prototype an idea, iterate on it, push it to a repo, get it reviewed, deploy it, and do all of that without ever feeling like you're juggling a bunch of disconnected, fragmented tools. And the other piece of this, which I think is really important too, is that Kilo meets you where you are. And that's designed intentionally, right? Like if you maybe want to start prototyping in the browser because you're on a laptop at a coffee shop and you just had an idea, cool, you can do that with Kilo App Builder, which I'll show you in a minute. Then later you want to get more serious and do some deeper development, you can move into the VS Code or JetBrains IDE. Or maybe you're a terminal person and you want to work in the CLI, you can do that too. And the key thing is that with Kilo sessions, which I'll explain in a minute as well, that session follows you. You don't have to lose context when you switch interfaces. You can work on the same session in the CLI that you do in the IDE and in the cloud. It's all connected, right? And that's what end to end means to us. It's not just that we have a lot of features, it's that those features work together in a way that's conducive to your development workflow. All right, so with that context in mind, let's go ahead and jump right into the demo. And this is like pretty much 100% live. So we might run into some live demo gremlins, as someone in the a previous webinar, you know, accurately described them. But hopefully it goes smoothly, and y'all can ask questions as we go. So I'm going to jump over to App Builder. And if you don't know what App Builder is yet, it's a new feature. It's a prototyping tool where you can build real web apps and sites using natural language entirely in the cloud with a live preview as you go. So if you ever used a tool like Lovable, Replit, or Bolt, it's similar to that, except it's baked into the Kilo platform, right? So when you're ready to dive into some deeper engineering, you can go ahead and continue with the other Kilo interfaces, which we'll show later. So I'm going to go ahead and give App Builder this prompt, which is build an app to help me randomly choose cuisine for takeout using a series of spinning wheels. It should have follow-up randomizers that help really narrow it down, which is especially useful living in New York City where there's so many incredible food options. And it's pretty easy to get a case of analysis paralysis, um, which is a problem for me because I love to get takeout. And then we're gonna so with App Builder, as with all the other interfaces in Kilo, you can pick from any of the 500 supported models. So let's go ahead and pick a new model that just dropped last week in Kilo, Minimax M2.1. Minimax M2 was one of my favorites for demoing because it was so quick. So I'm excited to use this one. And then all you do is click Start Building here. And what it's going to do is going to spin up this live preview as it works and keep you updated. The live preview will generate here, and then you can continue iterating by chatting here. And because I want to spare some time and get around to the rest of the demo, I'm just going to pull up a different project that I already created with this same prompt, just to show you what that looks like so that we don't have to wait for it to do that development. And it's loading with the live preview here. And you can see the chat history. It kept me updated as it went. Several times I iterated by asking it to change, the design or some other random things like, add more cuisine options to each level here. I think I had changed some of the stylistic things. Yeah, the text on the wheel should be angled so they revolve around the center of the wheel, etc. And then it iterates on the project and keeps you updated with the feed here on the left while that works. So this is loading, and there I already went ahead and deployed this project, but you can also deploy anything built. So there it is. Anything built with App Builder, if you haven't already deployed it, there's going to be a button right here that says deploy. So you can just click that and do a one-click deployment right to a live production URL. So I'd already went ahead and did that. And if we click on that here, we can see we have this URL with the app. So you can go ahead and share that with anyone. It's a public, live app on a shareable URL on the internet, which I think is pretty neat to do in one click. So I'll just show you the app real quick. So there's a spinning wheel. Okay, I'm rarely craving healthy and light, but we'll just run with it. It takes us down this path where we can narrow down the options and okay, salad bowls. And there it is. I'm going to start over because that's not typically something I would choose. Oh no. Okay, whatever. I guess it's telling me I need to eat better in 2026. So yeah, if we go back to App Builder here, we could iterate if we wanted to, but I want to show you what it looks like to take this deeper in Kilo. And the way you can do that is by simply clicking this clone button here. And that'll give you a command line, a command for the terminal to clone the repo and take it to local development. So if we go ahead and do that, there's a terminal. Let's say I want it to go in my downloads folder, CD into that, and we'll clone the project. And now we can see if I pull up my downloads folder, we can see that we have the project here that was just built by App Builder. And I went ahead and already did that yesterday in the documents folder for this app. So I'm going to pull up VS Code and we're going to open up this project here that App Builder just spun up for us. All right. So we're going to open, oh, we already have the project open here. It's Takeout. And I want to show a feature that I don't know if a lot of people know about yet. We did a webinar on it last week with the engineer who built it, Marius from Kilo, but it's parallel agents in the IDE. So parallel agents lets you run multiple agents at the same time, working on different parts of your code base without them conflicting with each other. And the reason this matters is like when you're working with AI coding tools, there's a lot of waiting, right? You send a prompt, you wait for the response, you send another prompt, you wait again. That waiting time can add up. With parallel agents, you can have multiple things happening at once, which means you get more done in less time. So just another way that we're trying to chip away at that friction that these agentic workflows have introduced, in this development process. So the way to access parallel agents is if you've used Kilo before, you'll know that you have the Kilo chat interface right here. You click this icon on the top, which is the agent manager, and you can click to add a new agent. So we have two agents interfaces opened right here. And in the first one, we can say something like maybe change the color scheme to something more vibrant and playful, right? That app I just showed earlier is maybe a little bit dark and I want something a little more fun. So we'll say change the color scheme to something more vibrant and playful. Use a gradient background that goes from a warm orange to a pink and make the spinner wheel segments more colorful with distinct colors for each option. So we can go ahead and switch to, we'll just do code mode. If it was a bigger ask, we might do orchestrator so that it would create some, an architecture plan and some subtasks for all the different modes to automatically proceed with. But since it's a pretty, manageable task, we'll just go right to code. And then in the other agent, maybe we'll say something like, what if we want even more cuisine types? Because, New York City is a vibrant place. There's a lot of different types of food. So we'll say add more cuisine types to the first spinner. Then add appropriate dishes for each of those new cuisines to the subsequent wheel data. So we want levels of different types of food and different dishes. So we'll go ahead and send off this. Oh, actually, first, want to make sure to switch to the work tree option. So that's how Kilo knows not to conflict with the first agent. If we had local selected here, it would just develop on the branch we're on in our local repository. So we want to create a new work tree so that they can work together without conflicting. So we'll stick with Opus 4.5, which is the latest frontier model from Claude. We'll send off that first one and we'll send off that second one. And you can see it's initializing the session. And we got a little notice here saying YOLO mode is on, which I'll show you in just a minute. But basically, that means that, for the sake of this demo, I'm just trusting the AI to auto approve every single command. So it's not going to ask me to approve anything, which you should only do if you really trust the AI, if you're working in a sandbox sort of environment, where it's okay if some things, go wrong and you don't need to approve every command. I'll show you how to enable that in a sec. It's really useful for, full on vibe coding for fun projects or for demos like this. So they're both working. You can see them here. So someone asked, does the app builder have delete options? Not right now. So we want to be able to keep a history of all the projects you're working on. That might change in the future. But good question. Someone said everyone loves YOLO mode right up until that one moment they suddenly don't. That's a great point. So like I said, it's my suggestion that you should only use it when you're doing, fun projects, something where you're on a protected branch or in a sandbox where you're not going to make changes to production that, don't require a human approval. Okay, we can see here this is done. Let's check in on the other agent. Looks like that's done. So the first agent committed our changes to the main branch that we were on, and the second agent committed them to a new Git work tree. So we're going to go ahead and click this button right here, this little branch button, which will finish that work tree and clean it up and add the changes to a new branch in our local repo. So we'll click that, and it automates a command to say inspect the Git diff and commit all stage changes. Someone asked, I have a question about Kilo and the subscription plans. Does the team plan include some LLM credits or rates, or this works only with API keys that I should add? Sorry if it's a dummy question. Not a dummy question at all. So no, the teams and enterprise plans don't come with LLM credits. It's still the same payment experience that you have as an individual, which is that you can pay through the Kilo gateway, which is Kilo's native API provider that gives you access to all the supported models. And you just pay for what you use. So Kilo is always usage based, and the model providers charge for LLM usage on a per token basis. So with Kilo, you just pay exactly what the model providers charge per token. There's no, overdraft, or there's no upcharge, rather, on that price. So it's the same with teams, but the difference is that you can pool credits with your teammates. So as a team, you can purchase, you know, however much you want through the Kilo gateway, and you can share those Kilo credits, which purchase tokens from the LLM providers, with your teammates. So I hope that makes sense. The teams and enterprise plans that you pay for give you things like usage analytics, shared access to all the features like reviews, cloud agents, code reviews, etc. AI adoption score, and ROI scores, which tell you how effectively your team is adopting AI into the workflow, and all of those sorts of features. Okay, so it committed, the parallel agent committed our secondary changes to a new branch. So I'm just going to pull up the terminal, and we're going to merge those. Let's actually check what the branch is called. Let's hope I remember my Git commands. Okay, so it's this. So we'll go ahead and merge the branch that was created by the parallel agent into our main local branch here. Okay, it worked. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit this project to a new repo in GitHub so that I can show you how code reviews work. So go ahead and do that. So it's that. So I see some questions in the chat. I'm going to answer real quick while that goes. Does parallel agents use work tree separation? Yes. So it uses work tree separation, and then it commits it to a different branch. So that's how, so in development, it's using work tree separation. And then when you're satisfied with the changes and you're done building in the parallel agent, you just click that button I showed you, and it creates and commits it to a new branch. If that makes any sense. Someone asked if you can push back up to the app builder. No, but you can push back up to the cloud agents, which I'll show you in just a moment. So I'm going to pull up GitHub. I just want to make sure that worked before I do. So I'm going to pull it up offline, off camera rather. Yep, it worked. Okay, great. We're really on fire right now with this live demo. Like no walls hit yet, which is awesome. All right, so we can see that we just added these recent changes, and we're going to compare and create a pull request here. So it added Caribbean, British, Irish, Scandinavian. Oh, actually, I forgot one quick thing. We want to commit the changes from the main branch as well. So add aesthetic changes, and then we'll push. Okay, so add new cuisines and aesthetic changes. And we'll go ahead and create that pull request. And then Kilo's code reviews agent is going to add a review. So if we go back to the Kilo dashboard here and we go to code reviews, we can see how we've set it up, right? So this is the code reviews tab on the Kilo backend in your dashboard. So you can find it just on this tab here at app.kilo.ai. And to set this up, all you have to do is connect GitHub on the integrations tab, which is like a two-click connect. It's already integrated on this account, obviously. But if you haven't done it yet, you would just click configure on GitHub. It sends you over to GitHub where you can choose to install the Kilo Speed app. You install that. And then once that's installed, Kilo will have access to your GitHub org. So if we go back to code reviews, we can enable, once that GitHub integration is set up, we can enable code reviews by toggling this switch here. You can choose from any of the same models that are supported elsewhere in Kilo. So we'll choose Opus, and then you can choose the review style. So you can choose between strict, balanced, and lenient. Strict will be really scrutinizing, flag anything that could be an issue. Balance, which is probably the tier that most people would choose, which is just to catch anything that's actually going to be a problem. And then lenient, which is only the serious bugs. So it'll probably avoid things that are maybe UX related, et cetera. If the app works and is secure, then it would probably pass through the lenient tier. Then here you can select the repositories that you want it to have access to. You can choose all the repositories in your GitHub org, or you can just choose a select few. And for any of the ones that you select, anytime you push a PR, it'll automatically add a code review from Kilo. Here you can choose the focus area, which is sort of like skills in Claude, if you know what that is, which basically changes the system prompt to the review agent to focus on certain areas. So you can choose security vulnerabilities, performance issues, bug detection, code style, test coverage, documentation, etc. You can set a maximum review time so that the agent eventually times out if the review isn't done in a certain amount of time. And then you can add custom instructions, which is basically like a custom command or system prompt for the code reviews agent. So you can tell it to maybe focus on something that isn't in the default focus areas. You could tell it how to respond. You could tell it how to what language to use, etc. And then you can save the configuration here. And if we go back here, yeah, we can already see the code review is done. So it reviewed it. It didn't find any issues. It's saying it's recommending us to merge it. It caught the changes that we made. So aesthetic changes expanded the color palette, added 4 new cuisines, and checked for security bugs, data structure, type safety, error handling, and added a few notes. So let's go ahead and merge that here. And now we have our new cuisine picker here in our GitHub repo. And I'm going to jump back to the chat to check if we have any new questions. Need a healthy mode toggle in the app. That's a good point. I think it's trying to tell me that I need to eat healthier, like I said, in 2026, because I kept getting that healthy food option, which is probably the last one I would have picked on my own. But I guess that's the point of this app, right? Okay, great. So the next thing I want to show you, which kind of goes back to that question that someone asked, which is if you can push back to the app builder. Someone said need an option to change models in the app builder. So you actually can select the model in the app builder here. So if we go, you can choose from this drop down and select from any of the 500 plus supported models here. And there's a number of free ones right now too. So there's Grok Code. I'm going to switch to my personal workspace. There's Mistral's DevStral 2, Cat Coder Pro V1. So these are completely free. Someone said no during the session. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so there's no update on that yet, but that's good feedback. I'll definitely forward that internally. Okay, so I pushed it to a repo in the Kilo org, so we'll go back to that. And this is the cloud agent experience. So we just talked about Kilo in the IDE with parallel agents, and there's a number of different interfaces in which you can access Kilo. One of them is Cloud Agents, which means that it doesn't use your local machine. So you can interact with Kilo the same way that you would from the IDE or the CLI. And you can choose from the different models and the different modes, but it runs entirely in the cloud with no local machine required. So I'll show you what that looks like. If we go ahead and select our repo that has the app here, we can describe a task. So I don't have a task planned for this. So I'm curious to ask the chat, what are some features we should add to the cuisine picker? And I'll wait for some feedback there. Someone said, I wish I could see what model was chosen in the session for App Builder, I'm guessing, since I tried having a couple models build the same thing and put them head to head. Yeah, I mean, that's good feedback. I'll definitely forward that internally. Okay, I'm seeing some stuff like calorie counter, filters for the picker, toggle healthy mode based on how tired and sad your last 10 prompts are. That's funny. That might be a little more robust than one prompt. To have that history, we might have to have like a database or something. I'm leaning towards the calories thing, even though that might make me more tired and sad in the end. I see some other people typing. Add the address to where to find the food. That would be really cool. But I think that's going to require an integration that might take a little more research than just, one prompt with cloud agents. Share option to share with friends. That's good too. Seeing some more people typing. I'm just gonna give it one more minute before we pick. Show picture of the food. Add to Grubhub. These are all great. I'm gonna share. Maybe I'll share the clone link with y'all, and you can make your own versions of the cuisine picker. Okay, we'll do calories because that seems like the easiest thing for right now. I really like the add to Uber Eats and Grubhub stuff, but I think that's going to require a more bespoke integration and or some kind of API. So we'll skip that for now. So this is an app that helps me pick takeout food using a randomized series of spinners. Add estimated calorie and nutrition. I'm going to say estimated nutrition info because that's a little more fun than just the calories. Information for the final selected dish. Okay, so we're in the right repo here. We'll go code mode. And we'll go back to Minimax. I like Minimax M2.1. And if you wanted to, you can add environment and variables here. We don't have any, and also setup commands here. So we'll go ahead and start that session. And now we're interacting with Kilo in the cloud. And this is actually how App Builder works behind the scenes as well. But Cloud Agent is more of a similar experience to what you get in the IDE or the CLI. A little more modular here. And while that works, we might as well talk about the CLI. So say, some people prefer working from the terminal. That's why Claude Code is as popular as it is. And if you don't know, Kilo also has a CLI where you can access the same experience. You can switch between the different Kilo modes, different models. And you can even use Kilo sessions to take what you're working on in the IDE or the cloud and continue the session anywhere else, including the CLI. And the way you do that from the IDE is the same way you spin up a parallel agent. So you go to the agent manager, which again is this button right here. You find the session that you want to fork, and you click on this button here, and it will ask you, do you want to publicly share a snapshot of this session? You'll say yes, and it will copy a link to your clipboard, which you can access from a browser, and you can see the shared session here. So you can even preview the session so you can get a quick history of the latest messages. You can open in VS Code or the of your choice. So there's, Cursor, Windsurf, Tray, and IntelliJ IDEA. And then you can open in the CLI. You can copy the command to open a new CLI instance, or if you already have a CLI instance open, you can use this command, which is a slash command that will open the same project. So if we go ahead and go to the CLI, we can paste that and we can fork the session here. So as we can see, we have our whole history of what we were just building in the parallel agent, where we added different food types and items. And then we can go ahead and continue the conversation and continue building here. Since I already committed it to GitHub, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to create too many divergent, Git histories here. But this is what the CLI looks like. I'll give you a quick tour. So you can use slash commands to do things like manage the team and organization. That if you want to switch into the team and organization account from your personal, you can use that command. You can switch to the different Kilo modes with mode, start a new task, view your profile information, view and manage the task history, clear the display without affecting the current task. You can open the configuration where you can add your Kilo API key and change a bunch of other settings. You can view and select different models, view and manage the different providers. There's different themes here. You can manage and revert to checkpoints, and then exit and manage Kilo sessions from the CLI. So basically all the features that you can use in the IDE, you can also use in the CLI, and you can do parallel agents with the CLI. So if we wanted to start two parallel sessions here, we could open a different tab and we would just use the Kilo parallel flag. So that would just be Kilo parallel. And then you could type your command. So add more food. And then you could do the same thing in this CLI, in this terminal, and they would run at the same time without interfering. So parallel agents in the IDE and CLI, super underrated feature in my opinion. And I don't know if you could hear that strange noise that just played, but that means that Cloud Agent is done. So Kilo has successfully committed and pushed the changes to the new app. So we have the nutrition info with calories, proteins, carbs, fat, fiber, and sodium fields, estimated nutrition for all 150 plus dishes. And it added a nutrition display component with color coded nutrition cards for the final selected dish. So the last step here is to deploy this app to a public shareable production URL. And before that, I see some new questions here. So is App Builder good for one-shotting? I know you can continue chatting with it. Is there a point where it's best to switch to Cloud Agent? It would be nice to promote the App Builder and have it do this workflow. Maybe even have it create a GitHub repo during that flow. So yeah, I mean, it is great for one-shotting. That's largely what it's for, is for early prototyping for of serious projects. So Kilo, is the all-in-one, is designed to be the all-in-one agentic engineering platform, which means that App Builder, unlike some other vibe coding tools, is really meant to prototype serious projects. It's great for like non-technical teammates who want to build up a quick MVP of an idea they have, or for technical people to have their idea come to life before they do deeper engineering. So it's great for one-shotting. I built a bunch of one-shot apps with it. And I think the point where it's best to switch to the Cloud Agent or the IDE is when you actually want to do some real engineering. So you interact with App Builder through natural language, but if you wanted to do some manual coding, or had some maybe code based instructions to do or to share with your teammates, or to collaborate on the project with your teammates, that's probably when it'd be best to take it out of App Builder. And you said maybe have it even create a GitHub repo during that flow. So that's exactly what it does to host the project. So when you click clone, you're actually cloning a GitHub repo and taking it locally. Someone else said it's not doesn't think it's great for one-shotting. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're building, right? And the limitations of the model. Just like, they said maybe if you use Opus, yeah, those models with really strong reasoning, long horizon skills, probably better for one-shotting. But I built one-shot apps with some of the cheaper and even free models, so I think it really depends on the complexity of what you're trying to build. Someone said, I know the host is reading comments from this platform. I was asking and waiting on YouTube live chat. I'll hop over to YouTube in just a minute and answer all those questions. Sorry about that. It's just me hosting today. So I'm doing my best to read as many as I can. And I got one more question here. It's great to make these apps, but how about monetizing the app, publishing to sources like Apple App Store, Windows app, Google Play? In the end get paid. Yeah, I mean, this tool is for prototyping. It's for building out the idea and making it something live, and you totally can take something straight from App Builder and do that. So that's what you when you would use the clone option, you take it offline and package it up however you need to package it for those different sources, which I don't actually know exactly how you do that for those different channels. Um, but yeah, you can also get, a live deployed link right from Kilo. So depending on what you're building, you can share it right from that deployed production URL. So question and going back to multiple agents in VS Code, how can you select the mode there? So you just select the mode from the first agent, and the second agent will use the same mode and model. For the session link to work in the CLI, do I need to be CD'd into the project directory? Yeah. Yep. So I did that off camera. Okay, let's go back to deploy. So this is Kilo Deploy, which is like a few click deployment tool directly in the Kilo dashboard. So it's similar to Vercel if you use that. But you have access to all of the repos that's already connected in Kilo that we've worked on in the IDE, the CLI, Cloud Agents, App Builder, wherever. So we'll just go ahead and go to the org. We'll select the repo. We'll hope there's no runtime errors in this and it works nicely. You can select the repo and the branch here and optionally add environment variables if you needed to. Then once you click create deployment, it'll start building the deployment here with build logs. And while we wait for that to load, I'll jump over to the YouTube live stream and I'll see if there's any good questions there. So someone said on YouTube, is a free model on App Builder in Kilo doesn't have features that can edit the file that's been created? No, they should. I mean, every model has their own limitations and skills. But yeah, you can definitely continue to iterate on what you've built in App Builder with any of the models, including the free ones. Someone said, how can I edit the file in App Builder? So you can't edit files directly in App Builder, and that's why we enabled that export feature where you can export to the IDE or the CLI or wherever else you want to work. And that's where you can manually edit the files and do that deeper engineering. So the IDE and the CLI, was built for true agentic engineering. The app builder is built for prototyping those tools and features that you eventually might want to do some deeper engineering on. S- Someone said live deployed link comes with some restrictions on bandwidth requests and uptime. Yeah, so right now, there's no, restrictions on cloud and compute for deploy. That's subject to change. But right now, you shouldn't have any problems with that. All right, and it deployed successfully. Wow, this is honestly a miracle that we didn't run into a single issue on a full end-to-end live demo, which is pretty great. We'll go to test it, and there it is. It has our beautiful aesthetic new background. Maybe I would change the readability here because I didn't run it when we were doing that, but we'll go ahead and spin it. Okay, we got America food, Americas. Okay, so I guess that's like US, Mexico. Okay, we got USA classics. We'll go ahead and narrow that down. I'm liking where this is heading. Deli sandwiches, and that's it. We got our deli sandwiches. That's awesome. Oh, I forgot to merge the nutrition part. So we have Cloud Agent branch here. So we got to create a pull request for that. Someone said, sounds like the Bitcoin miner live demos are getting ready if it's fully open. I honestly don't know exactly what you mean by that. I'd love some more context there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and merge that. And that's the other cool thing about deploy is that whenever you merge a new PR or make any changes, it has automatic redeploys here, just like Vercel. So we'll go ahead and wait for that to build. Oh, yeah, no limits on compute. Yeah, I mean there are limits. Like we're watching very carefully to restrict that. Maybe I misunderstood your first question. Yeah, we have monitoring for abuse and for all that good stuff. So um, no need to worry about that. But I appreciate the concern. So someone said, can you deploy any kind of backend? So right now, it's just Next.js, but we have some other fun things on the roadmap. So stay tuned. And it's deploying now. There it is. All right. So let's go through it again and see if we got that nutrition part added. We got Asian food, lovely. Thai, perfect. Curry. Oh, awesome. So there it is. That's probably pretty accurate too. 720 calories, 22 grams of protein. Wow. All right, so yeah, it pretty much works great. We went from idea with app builder, took it in, did some development with parallel agents in the IDE, then we moved to cloud agents and added some features, and we got it all reviewed by code reviews, and then we deployed with Kilo Deploy. So that's the idea of the all-in-one agentic engineering platform with that Kilo is really is being able to have that idea, take it all the way to the finish line to a production URL without ever leaving the platform and doing it with the least amount of friction possible and the most speed. So if you've heard the term kilo speed from us recently, that's kind of our manifesto. And our CEO, Scott, actually wrote a great public version of the manifesto here, if anyone's interested, which is all about helping people reduce development friction in this modern age of agentic engineering. So agentic engineering tools are supposed to make you faster, right? But because the tools are new and we're all learning them, they've also introduced, some friction points that are new that were maybe unexpected. And we're, constantly shipping new features and working really hard to, mitigate that friction and deliver on the promise of agentic engineering that it really will speed you up in your development. So, yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to play around with this app, I'll send the link here. That's the new takeout randomizer, which maybe I'll use tonight because it's a Friday. And yeah, I think we're a little bit over time. Um, but I just want to put up our Reddit and Discord because that's a good place to stay tuned for any of these webinars. And we're hosting average of 2 a week or so. As promised in the email I sent, we'll give away $100 of credits to 5 random attendees this afternoon. So look out for an email if you're lucky enough to be selected. And someone said, impressive to have a demo like this just run end to end when everything is based on some degree of randomness. Well done. Well, I really appreciate that, and I'm pretty satisfied too. And that's a good point. Agentic engineering is non-deterministic because AI doesn't do the same thing every time with the same prompt. But that's also what makes it fun in a demo like this. We would have gotten a completely different app if I had, messaged it 5 minutes later, maybe. But yeah, I'm glad that everyone joined today. I'm wishing everyone a great 2026. I hope you enjoyed your new year. And yeah, please stay tuned for the next webinar. And I hope to see you all there. So thanks, everybody.